everybody, it's Joe Parrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your gun dog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your gun dog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Found It, Fetched It. This week, LWDG Group expert Claire Denyer and I are going to be talking about the pros and the cons of a trainer handling your dog. How are we this week, Claire?
I'm very well, thank you, Joe. The sun is finally shining, a little bit less rain, so it's all good.
I look out to the window today and see the sun and I'm like, oh my God, I'm excited for life. And I think we all feel like that, don't we? It's just like, oh, finally, a little bit of warmth in our bone, a little bit of dry ground. It's going to be a good day.
And it's making training so much nicer.
Absolutely. Like, we're not all dressed like we're about to get on board one of those like crab ships and go to the Bering Sea. Let's talk about this topic because I think it's a super interesting topic about really the pros and the cons of somebody touching your dog. We're talking here about a trainer touching your dog, but I think that we've got to give this consideration in either way, isn't it? Is what we allow, what we don't allow, what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with. Can we start by explaining why a trainer would handle your dog and like what context your dog should be handled in?
Yeah, this is a very much it depends on the dog and the situation kind of answer, because it really does. There are certain scenarios when I'm working with a client, we know that everybody learns differently, and some people are more visual learners. So sometimes with some clients, it might require a practical demonstration from the trainer to help the owner understand what it is the trainer is trying to get across to the handler. So that could be the way that they are providing the reward to the dog, so the placement of the reward. It could be the way they're holding the lead. It could be their body positioning when they're handling their dog. So some people are more visual learners. Now, in that scenario, or if somebody is really struggling, personally as a trainer, I would ask permission, first of all, of the handler to show them with their dog if that's what was required. Because sometimes I might have my dog with me in the car, because some of my clients ask me to bring a dog along as a stooge dog to work with their dog. Perhaps because their dog isn't great yet in a group scenario, but they're at the stage where starting to work with another dog is beneficial. So they might ask me to do that. Other times, their dog may not be suitable to have one of my dogs around. So it's very dependent, day to day, client to client. So if I haven't got one of my own dogs, to just do a very short practical demonstration, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not the sort of trainer that has my dog out when I'm teaching other people, unless there's a reason that benefits the client. Because all of my focus, I want to be on my client and their dog. So if I haven't got a dog to show them practically, I will ask permission to take the lead and show them what it is that I'm explaining to them. So that's one very simple example of when a trainer can work with the owner's dog for the benefit of the handler. But ultimately, the trainer's job is teaching the handler how to train the dog, unless you are somebody that takes in dogs for residential training, and that's very different.
You touched on something there, which I think is the first part of this, which is asking permission, because like a really short related idea around this. My mum is very much a kinesthetic learner, without doubt. When we go to sugarcraft class, I'm quite happy for our teacher to take my work and do whatever she's doing to show the next step. It drives my mother nuts. Now, literally, it's not just a case of she's doing the work for her, which drives my mother nuts because she can't learn. My mother has to do it to learn. But also, she just picks it up and does it. And like that one little thing of not asking permission It can be incredibly overpowering, can't it?
Absolutely. I always ask permission. I would never, ever take the lead of a client's dog or touch a client's dog without asking permission, because at the end of the day, I don't want that dog, and this goes into a whole nother realm of it. I don't want that dog in any reason starting to be more interested in me or training better for me. And perhaps that could humiliate the handler, the client. They could feel embarrassed if I can do it with their dog, but they can't. My job as their trainer, as their coach, is to show them and educate them through whatever means necessary for them to get the result with the dog. Now, I suppose a little caveat on that, a little thing that you would need to throw in is sometimes the client might have a physical disability that would require me to assist them and help them and work with them to show them perhaps another way of doing it if they can't do it the first way that I show them. So there's so many factors to this, but asking permission is so important. And I think there are trainers out there who think it's absolutely fine to grab hold of clients' dogs and do things without asking permission. And I think that's really bad.
It is incredibly bad, and I'm all for being level-headed in many situations. But how somebody else might handle my dog might not be the way I want my dog handled in the first place. That might be their way of handling their dogs. It might not be my way. So by taking them and just doing whatever they're doing, you might find out you've hurt the person, but also more than that, you can hurt the dog, because the reality of it is a trainer can know a dog incredibly well. They don't know the dog like the owner does.
This is a really tricky scenario, and sometimes I work with dogs where I can tell by the way the dog responds to certain things in the training environment that perhaps the owner has previously worked with a trainer who is way too hands-on with the dog and maybe overcorrecting a dog or being aggressive around the dog. And you can see the fallout of that in the way the dog responds to you and to the environment, the scenario. It might be even to an exercise where something has happened to that dog during a specific exercise. And I'm watching the dog's body language thinking, something has happened here. This dog is not responding to this exercise how this dog should be responding to this exercise. So sometimes I have to do a little bit of digging. The thing is, for me, very much my kind of objective with all of my clients is to help them build a better, stronger relationship with their dog, to work in unison with their dog, to grow that partnership. As you know, I'm not saying dogs don't need to be appropriately educated and corrected, but it should never be detrimental to the handler, to the dog, and the outcome that's trying to happen there. And so that asking of permission, like so often I speak to clients where they've gone to a trainer and they've been shocked or mortified because the handler has stepped in and physically corrected their dog with no warning. And it's not something that the client is comfortable with, but because this is a professional, they think they can't say anything. And it's like, yes, you can say something. Of course you can.
I think that part on our side as the owner, if we are not comfortable, we have to speak up, don't we? Because I think there's nothing worse, and we hear it 1,000 times, stories of people who've been out with a trainer, they haven't been happy with the way the dog's been handled, but they also haven't said anything. So the trainer doesn't know that they've upset them. And the reality is that that owner, 9 times out of 10, doesn't go back, never tells that trainer why. So the trainer is none the wiser that what they're doing is actually affecting their client. And I know it's not about the trainer, it's about the dog, but this lack of communication makes that trainer think it's absolutely fine to go and do this to the next dog.
Yeah, now that's, you hit the nail on the head when you said that lack of communication, and that's what it is. It's when I meet a client for the first time, have a conversation with the client before we even get the dog out. Or if they've travelled a long way, I'll say, get the dog out on a lead, give it a wee, pop it back in the car, let's have a conversation first. I want to get to know that client before we start working with the dog. I want the client to be in a position where we're just talking one-on-one. They're not distracted or frustrated by things the dog are doing in that moment. I need to get a feel for that client. I need to get a feel for them, their experiences with other trainers. You know, I'm not asking who, but I say, what sort of training have you been to before? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? How did that make you feel? How do you feel about this? I use food and play in my training. Are you comfortable with that? If I need to correct the dog, these are the ways we might look at correcting the dog, but it would always be appropriate, non-abusive, non-harsh. So I have that conversation first so that before we even start working with the dog, me and the owner are on the same page. I know what they are feeling. They understand me as a trainer, and they already have been given permission by me to tell me if they're not comfortable with something, because if they're not comfortable with something, I'll find another way. You know, and that's the thing, you work with the dog in front of you, but not only the dog, you work with the handler in front of you as well, and that's really important.
I feel like we've just now advanced that saying of work with the dog in front of you. It'll be like work with the dog and the owner in front of you. But yeah,
Yes.
I agree with you. And let's talk a little bit about, because we're talking about like the challenges there of a trainer handling our dogs. What are the benefits? So where consent has been given by the owner for the trainer to handle the dogs, and we are talking about that. We're not on about consent being given by the dogs. We're not going there.
No.
Where the consent has been given by the handler for the trainer to handle the dog, what are the benefits when that does happen?
It can give clarity to the dog. That's one of the big, huge benefits. If the handler isn't confident in what they're doing, or it's taking them a little bit of time to understand, the trainer, with permission of the owner, can help not only show the owner how to do it, the precision involved, the reward placement, the body positioning, the difference between the reward being given out of placement, in placement, all of those things, but also they can help give clarity to the dog so that when they give the lead back to the owner, the dog already has a little bit of an understanding of how this is going to go down, even if the handler maybe doesn't get it quite right. So an example we've used in other podcasts is about, you would never put a novice rider on a novice horse, would you? Well, this is where very often we have first-time dog owners with young puppies, or they've rehomed an older dog with very little training. And this is an example where it can then be beneficial for the trainer to help to give clarity to the dog whilst also teaching the owner. So that's one benefit, is that clarity to the dog, because the trainer has done this multiple times over and over again with a variety of dogs, so has a technique that is clearer to the dog, has body language that is clearer to the dog, reward placement that is clearer to the dog, but the trainer must then transfer that information to the owner.
I know for me, like, I edit all your amazing masterclasses and that of other experts. And when I'm visually watching something, it makes so much sense to me. I'm absolutely a visual learner. But then once I'm editing the podcast and I put it up, I'm not a good listener without being able to visually see what's being explained. And I listen to it and I think, oh, I don't know if I could learn from podcast where you're telling me the same stuff. I really do have to see it. And I think it's about knowing your learning style. Like, I know if I came to you, we'd had the conversation and I said, yeah, you can handle my dog. I know watching you show me how to do it would click far faster than you telling me. In fact, I would probably say, Claire, show me, show me. I probably wouldn't just things I do say, because that's the way I learn. So it's about us working out how we need the trainer to help us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, sometimes I look like I'm line dancing when I'm working with the handler, because maybe the dog isn't a suitable dog for me to demonstrate with. Maybe I can't take the lead. Maybe the dog is fearful. Maybe the dog is super attached to its owner, and so it's not going to work with me. So in a scenario like that, I'm going to stand next to the owner and get them to mirror me. We might even put the dog away for a minute, and I'm going to go, we're going to do this together. And we look like we're line dancing because I'm standing next to them. I'm showing them how to move the body, where to put the legs, where to put the reward, how to then move with the dog. And so sometimes it looks a bit like line dancing because yes, some clients really are a visual learner, but sometimes it's not appropriate for the dog, for the trainer to take the lead and to show with that dog. And like I say, equally, I may not have one of my own dogs in the car because I know that dog coming up is not a dog that can be around other dogs. So it would be dangerous and potentially a very unprofessional thing for me to do, to have a dog with me if that dog is fearful of other dogs. So there are times where you have to be creative as the trainer with a visual learner handler, because maybe you can't show them with a dog, their dog or your own dog. And so you have to be really flexible on that.
Apart from, some of us can feel a little bit like, oh my God, for example, dog's just done it for that person, but they've not done it for me. I am the weakest. Apart from that, which is more about us building our own confidence than it is about the situation, are there any negative effects of a trainer handling the dog?
Yeah. Yeah. So just on the point, I'll go back to what you just said about the owner feeling like the dog's doing it for them, but not for the handler. Just to add to that, sometimes it's not even about that. The dog has no history and relationship with the trainer. Sometimes the reason a dog will do it for the trainer in a demonstration, but then struggle with the handler, is because, and it's not saying that there's a bad relationship, but there's a history of things not being done with clarity with the handler. With the trainer, there's no relationship and no history. So sometimes that's why the dog does it for the trainer, because they won't push the boundaries with the trainer because they don't know the trainer. Whereas with the handler that they live with, the owner, they might push those boundaries because of that history in the relationship. Moving on from that, your second point there, any other negatives? Yes. So something that we see quite frequently, John and I, is when dogs have been to trainers with the handler who are very hands-on, and I'm not talking about abusive or harsh handling here. So I've already talked about what you might have as a fallout from that, but maybe they've been over-friendly with the dog. And so the poor handler is mortified because when the trainer throws the dummy for the dog, let's say it's a retrieve and they throw the dummy, the dog takes it back to the trainer and not the handler, because the trainer has been too hands-on, too familiar, and built up too much of a relationship with the dog. That's also, so it's a complete opposite effect, but also not good, because I want to build, as a trainer, my job is to build the relationship between the dog and the owner, their handler, not the relationship between me and the dog. A reason that I might be more hands-on with the dog is if it's very timid and very nervous and maybe has had a bad experience with a trainer, so I need to build its confidence. But beyond that, there's a massive risk that that dog will start to see me as the source of fun and then not work so well for the handler because it wants to know what I'm doing and is running up to me and wants to give me the retrieve or wants to play with me and is blowing the handler off, which that in itself can make a handler feel awful and is not good. A trainer shouldn't be doing that because that can have a really negative effect on the positivity of the handler, because they don't understand why the dog favors the trainer over them. So it's the complete opposite to the first example I gave, but both equally can be bad for the handler and the dog.
I think as well, there's an addition to that, in the fact that you can end up breaking down an owner and dog's relationship, because if they're not blaming the trainer, they might be blaming the dog. You know, I can remember growing up again with horses. I had a horse called Bramble, wouldn't do anything for me. Talked about her before. I hated her, and I did hate her. I can use that word very, very rarely. I got to the point where I hated her because she'd do something for other people, And then I'd be like, almost, them showing me that they could do it, she'd do it for them, but not for me, made me almost dislike her even more. We went from not getting on, from being a new owner and a new rider. Both of us knew what to do. I was at the stage at that point when I knew what to do. So I knew I wasn't riding her incorrectly, and she knew her job. There just wasn't a gel. It hadn't happened. We just hadn't gelled. And instead of people allowing us that time, they would get on her and show me that she'd do it for them. And that's all I would end up thinking is, you're a monkey of a mare, because why won't you do it for me? And I just got more and more upset by other people showing me it could be done with that. And I got more and more that I hated her. And I use that word strongly, but truly, because I just thought, well, why won't you do it for me? Like, what is wrong? And it did become, and it shouldn't have become, I was a child, but it became really personal. It literally, if there was ever going to be a chance that we would have had a bond over time, other people touching her and showing me what I couldn't already do, smash that apart.
You just said exactly it's the same with the dogs and their owner handlers. It can be so demoralizing for the handler if the trainer repeatedly takes the lead and says, look, your dog can do it fine, it's you. And there are trainers that actually say that, and it's such a bad thing to say. No, actually, there's the communication breakdown there between the dog and the handler for whatever reason. But the trainer's job should be to look at it and go, what are you doing differently that's meaning that the dog is not doing it the same for you as for me? Am I too involved? Have I created this? Or do I need to change something about how these two are working together? So the trainer should be constantly troubleshooting what's happening. Whatever the trainer sees in front of their eyes, their job is to dissect that, work out if it's a handler issue, a dog issue, both issue, behavioural, lack of understanding, poor communication. There is such a multitude of things and reasons why things go wrong in training, but the trainer's job ultimately is to help that partnership grow. Unless you are taking dogs in for residential training and you're actually taking on the role of handler to that dog, the primary thing in my head as a trainer is, how can I do better for this partnership? Not how can I show off with a dog. And that's one of the other reasons I tend not to use my own dogs in sessions with clients, is because I'll only do it if there's a reason to do it. So let's say they really want to get their dog into a group class, but the dog has potentially in the past not been ready to. We'll use my dog as a gauge, or to build confidence in another dog, or to see how the steadiness is coming on with that dog around another dog. But the last thing I want to do is say, oh, well, this is how it should look. That's not a great thing to do to a client. No, you should be thinking, how can I better educate this handler to help them get the result?
And you're right there completely, as always. But I think it's a trainer change your mentality and an owner change your mentality, in the fact that you do not pay for dog training, you pay for dog handling training. And that's what we've got to get right in our head, isn't it? Like you just said, you're not there to train the dog, you're there to train the handler how to train the dog. I suppose it's how we say things, it's our wording. When you say, I'm going to dog training classes, it's that mix, like literally, without going like over the top. It's like, I'm going to dog handler classes, because it's me that's got to learn, not Fido. Fido will learn when I do it.
You're right. And I think what just popped into my head then, my priority when I meet a client is the end goal is for them to have a great partnership and achieve their goals together. So to do that, I have to get the best working relationship with that client. And I actually need to have quite a neutral relationship with the dog, because I was thinking about it as you were talking there, and it was like, hang on a minute. So if let's take this scenario. So for retriever training, walk up scenario. If I've built up too much of a relationship with the dog and the dog sees me as this massive source of fun, let's face it, the trainer will always look like a source of fun if they're out there throwing the dummies for the handler. Okay. Now, with some dogs, I've even removed that, because that's already an issue. So I'll be like, I'm not throwing you any marks. You're throwing the marks. I'll put them up blinds out for you. And we'll work in memories. The dog needs to become more neutral toward me. It's too interested in me. So that walk up scenario, the dogs are all fixated on the person out there, which is usually the trainer or a dummy thrower, throwing the dummies. So that fixation is already there, which creates this massive amount of anticipation in the dog that the fun is coming. But the fun is not with the handler. So for me, it's like we have to create this relationship and this kind of understanding for the dog that it's the handler that is actually providing that fun through being there with the dog for the training. You're not just a lift to get there and then the trainer provides the fun. You know, the handler's not just the taxi driver for the dog. They're a partnership doing this thing together. So the dog needs to understand that although there is a dummy thrower or a trainer that happens to be putting those dummies out or firing that shot or whatever else, the handler is the one providing it. And that's the key to that success. So that neutral relationship between the dog and the trainer, a good solid relationship built on trust between the handler and the trainer, and also a solid good relationship between the dog and handler built on trust. And then I kind of think about it because it's like, if I do have to step in and interrupt a dog because it's maybe doing something it shouldn't be doing, if that dog has a really neutral relationship with me and they're about to wee on something instead of pick up the dummy, I could just interrupt with like that to the dog because I'm nearest, because I'm now out near the dummy. Handler can continue being good cop. Hold it, good, come on then, come on then, come on then. And I can offer that support to the handler and it's minimal to the dog. Does that make sense? I feel like I've just really blurted out a load of stuff.
No, I think what you said to listeners is this stuff they need to hear. Like on Saturday when I went to Sam's event, I sent Rex out. Rex knows his job inside out. I sent him out so badly, I should have been shot on spot. He was like, he knew his job so well, and I'd done such a bad job of sending him out. He was actually confused what he needed to do. And I was like, I was all over the place. And I literally thought, so I literally moved from the imaginary starting Gary line, because we were in Gary training day. I stepped out and I started quartering him, not because he needed it, although he did, but to focus my mind to get him to the dummy. And I came back and Sam said to me, well done, you turned something that was going shockingly. That wasn't her word, that's mine. And you made it something positive, and you made it so that he found the dummy, but that I focused myself. Now I have that relationship with Sam where I know as my trainer, she will not be angry with me. She will understand if I've stepped to do something. But also, had I been in a position where she'd gone, oh, you don't do it that, you do it like this, and stepped in, she would have completely undermined it for me. And what I knew I was going really badly anyway, I would have felt dreadful for, because I know better. But by allowing me and working with my trainer to correct myself a little bit, giving me that space to work with my dog, she built my confidence. And coming from that, I thought, well done to Sam for telling me it was fine that I made something that was going bad better. But also, she had that common sense to read me as a handler, not to get it to a win in what we were doing, but just let it become a win in itself. What I'm trying to say is, it's about finding trainers as owners. You have to find a trainer you can trust who is on your side, don't you?
You're right. The trainer should be building the confidence of the handler, educating the handler, having as much as a neutral relationship as they can with that dog, unless there's a really good reason why not. So like a sensitive, nervous dog, I will definitely be more engaging with until I've grown that dog's confidence. But then once I've done that, I've got to be neutral. I never, ever want a client's dog to be fearful of me, worried by me, or intimidated by me. And any handler that's working with a trainer who the trainer is doing that to the dog, that's just not cool. Dogs shouldn't be feeling like that about the trainer. The trainer's job is to help the handler make progress and do what needs to be done to educate the owner and the dog, but shouldn't be making dogs feel intimidated or scared or worried about making a mistake. That's just not good training. And it takes real trust between the handler and the trainer, real trust and a strong professional relationship to get to that point where you can have those really honest conversations. Your dog needs this, your dog is feeling that, your dog has strong emotions about that. Yes, your dog is being a little bit naughty now, and this is how we're going to rectify it. Because that's the reality. The reality is the dog will make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes are because the dog hasn't been taught properly. There's confusion. It's not clear to the dog. And sometimes dogs are genuinely a little bit naughty. And then that needs to be handled professionally and in a way that's appropriate for that dog and that handler.
On the weekend, what I loved as well, we had people on slip leads. I had taken Rex on purpose on a leather collar with a bandana on it because I was like, sometimes I like to show that you can step outside of the traditional gun dog look and it is okay. But I like it, you know, Rex is clipped out, Ella is clipped out, all the things that I suppose people think, oh, what if I did that? Would I get a row for that? I do with my dog. But there were dogs who had e-collars where their owners have been trained to use them and were using them beautifully with those dogs. In fact, they weren't using them because they'd been used beautifully with dogs. And those dogs were happy and bounding around and having just as much fun as the other dogs. And I looked around and I thought, what amazing experts like you and Sam and Jem do we have that we can bring all these people with all these ideas of how they want to train. And that's what we're talking about here. And no trainer is saying, you're not doing that in this class. That's the wrong way. That's the right way. They were able to be there and be comfortable. And I was really proud of the LWDG. Like, it's giving me goosebumps. So I was really proud of you guys. That I thought I knew Jem's Spaniel training weekend was going on at Ipswich on the same day. And I knew Jem's group were having the same experience. I didn't even have to be there. Your group the week before and is coming up again at the end of this month. I know they're getting the same experience. They're not being judged. They're not being downplayed. And when we're having this conversation about what's best for the dog here with handling, it comes down one deeper than that, really, doesn't it? It's how do we allow the handlers to learn without us making them feel the fool or being over handsy with their dogs when there's absolutely no need?
Yeah. And I think that's education, isn't it? It's giving people the confidence and empowering them to speak up and to protect their dog. Protect isn't the word I'm looking for. I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
They can speak up and be heard, because I think there is the feeling, or I certainly hear it. I don't hear it about you guys at all. I don't think I ever have. But I hear it about XYZ trainer where their owner hasn't been heard. They've said, even if they have spoke up and said, oh, I don't want to do that with my dog, if they've been demoralized and steamrolled over in, well, this is the way. This is the way. And that annoys me a little bit, because it isn't about this is the way. It should be, like you've said, like we've discussed, speaking to the handler and saying, okay, how do you want to do this and how can we best approach this? And where can, again, we've got a podcast on this, where do we find the middle ground if there's something that may not work with your dog? Because owners, let's be honest about this now, owners can want to train one way and the trainer can see that that dog is not going to learn that way. But they've got to be heard, and there's got to be a conversation that allows the owner to see why what the trainer is saying is a better route for that dog.
And that's about communication. It's about honest communication between the trainer and handler, and the trainer having the ability to tell the handler what they see in the dog's behavior, the dog's body language, the dog's ability, and match that with what sits right with the handler and say, these are our options. So for me, I'll usually say, these are our options. We can do X, Y, or Z, but we've got to do something. We've got to do something. We can't continue as we are, because the dog's not going to progress. The dog will continue to be confused. Things will continue to go wrong. And so it's having that honest, open dialogue and being an educator at all times.
Like, trainers, I know you do it, I know the other experts do it, saying when they can't train. If a handler says, this is the way I want to train, and after exhausting it, they're like, look, this just isn't going to work, and I'm not the trainer to train this. I've heard you say that. I wasn't the trainer for that person. It's that, isn't it? It's all the same thing of being hands-on with the dog. It's finding the trainer that works, that you are happy with, where you're seeing results, because that's the other thing as well, I think, when we're talking about this, where you see results where they are treating you appropriately, they are treating your dog appropriately, and you are happy with that, is finding all these ticks.
Yeah, it is finding all those ticks. And yes, you're completely right. I have stopped working with clients in the past because they don't want to hear what I've got to say, or they're not prepared to make changes. And I'm not prepared to watch the dog struggle that much either. I have a responsibility as a trainer to say what I see, be truthful about what I see. And if I can see that something being done or happening is not to the benefit of the dog, I'm going to say so.
To close up what I think has been yet again another amazing podcast, what piece of advice would you give to the listeners who are trying to decide, and this is a sad thing because I know my personal view on this, it's like whether to work with a trainer or handle the training themselves. I almost think in pretty much every instance where you can get to a good trainer, you should at least try to do some, if it's just training days or something, because even for your own confidence, to see other people handling, going right, going wrong, watching me quota when I should be like retrieving, like all that stuff gives you confidence in yourself. But what sort of advice would you give people who are like, the handler is being too handsy with my dog? I'm thinking the only other option is I train the dog myself. What sort of advice would you give them? How do you get out of that?
So if you're already in that situation where the trainer is maybe too involved with your dog, too hands-on with your dog, whether that's in an over friendly way or maybe in a negative way that makes you feel uncomfortable, I think the most important thing is to have an honest conversation with that trainer. Whether you choose to do that in person during a session or maybe make a phone call at a different time to have that conversation when you're not there feeling vulnerable with the dog. For some people that might be useful, or even to write it in an email, in whatever way you feel confident. I think you've just got to be honest and say to the trainer, I feel like this isn't working for me and my dog because, and explain why. And the trainer really should take that on board and might be able to explain to you perhaps why they've done it the way they've done it. And maybe you might then realize, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Or they might go, okay, I'm really sorry, I didn't know you felt that way. How can we make this better? But that has to be a really honest conversation.
And that conversation, if you're not in that situation and you're looking for a trainer, like you've said, have those conversations again before you start that training. What is your approach to handling my dog? Blah, blah, blah. Ask those questions. And a lot of the times, I think new owners, we don't know or we don't know. So we don't know what the questions are. But if you've listened to this podcast, think about the things we've talked about, isn't it?
From my perspective, because I do understand that some handlers maybe are not confident to ask those questions. That's why as a trainer, I have that conversation first. I want to make it as easy as I can for the handler to feel as comfortable training their dog with me as they possibly can. But not all trainers do that. So I think before your first session, if you are trying to find a trainer, ask to have a little chat with them over the phone. Just explain, just say, I just want to have a chat with you about your training style, and make sure that it's going to be a good fit for me and my dog. And they shouldn't be offended by that. They shouldn't be offended by that.
Not at all. They should welcome it because it shows, I think, for a trainer, it shows that the owner is taking this seriously. You know, there are great questions, aren't there? When you hear them, they just tick boxes and you go, oh, you really do want to do this well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. For me, that's the most important thing. And I think it is for most trainers who are in this for the benefit of the partnership of the dog and handler.
Fabulous. Well, if you've been listening to this and you're like, okay, I love this, please subscribe, please review. It helps us to get out to other people who may not know that this sort of educational facility. This free information is there for them. So we really would appreciate it. Have a little look at our book. That will help you with understanding how to build your confidence. Have a look at our other podcasts. You've got all our fantastic podcasts, including other podcasts that Claire and I have done about picking trainers, etc., that you are going to absolutely love. By subscribing, it will download automatically every single week for you on the Friday. So it's there for you to enjoy while you're walking the dog, doing the dishes, driving to work, whatever you're up to, climbing a mountain, it'll be there for you to listen to. Thank you very much, Claire, for being amazing as always. You can find more of Claire's amazing training within the LWDG group. She's provided us hundreds of masterclasses, hundreds of hours of live coaching. She is there to talk to you all the time. And for our members, you have access to her pretty much 24/7 and to the other amazing experts too. Thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and we look forward to speaking to you all next week. That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together, because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.